The rain lashed against the towering glass walls of Lucille, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, where the city's elite gathered beneath chandeliers that sparkled like constellations trapped in crystal. Thunder growled in the distance, a low rumble that seemed to echo the tension brewing inside. At table 12, Marcus Tate, a 27-year-old black waiter, moved with the grace of someone who'd learned to navigate life's storms with quiet precision. His crisp white shirt, slightly damp from the downpour he'd braved to make his shift, clung to his lean frame. His hands, steady in practice, balanced a tray of crystal champagne flutes as he approached the table, where Victor Grayson, a billionaire real estate tycoon, held court. Grayson, 52, lounged in his tailored suit, his laughter sharp and cutting, like a blade slicing through the restaurant's hum. His three guests, men in equally expensive suits, their gold watches catching the light, smirked as Grayson waved Marcus over with the casual arrogance of a man accustomed to being obeyed. "Boy, you deaf?" I said more champagne. "Move faster," Grayson barked, his voice laced with condescension. The word boy hung in the air, heavy with intent, as his guests chuckled, their eyes flicking to Marcus with dismissive amusement. Marcus's jaw tightened, a flicker of defiance in his dark eyes, but his face remained a mask of professionalism. He poured the champagne with care, each movement deliberate, his gaze catching the glint of a ring on Grayson's finger, a rare sapphire, set in a platinum band, glowing like a cold flame under the chandelier's light. "My mom has the same ring," Marcus said softly, almost as if the words had slipped out, as he set the bottle down with a faint clink. The table went still. Grayson's smirk vanished, his eyes narrowing to slits. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, dangerous, like a predator sensing a threat. The other guests exchanged uneasy glances, the air suddenly thick with a storm of its own. Marcus met Grayson's stare, his voice calm but unyielding. "That ring. My mother has one just like it." Grayson leaned forward, his face a mix of amusement and menace, his fingers curling protectively around the ring. "You're telling me your mother owns a $2 million heirloom? Kid, you're a waiter. Don't waste my time with fairy tales." The table erupted in laughter, sharp and mocking, but Marcus didn't flinch. His eyes held something unshakable, a quiet certainty that made Grayson's smile falter just for a heartbeat. The other diners nearby glanced over, sensing the shift, their whispers fading into the clink of cutlery. What did this waiter know about a ring that could freeze a billionaire in his tracks? Marcus Tate was no stranger to being underestimated. Raised in a cramped Harlem apartment by a single mother, he'd grown up navigating a world that judged him by his skin and his circumstances. At 27, his lean frame and steady hands belied the fire in his chest, a fire fueled by a promise to his mother: "I'll make things right." By day, he studied law at Columbia, his textbooks hidden in the break room of Lucille, their pages worn and annotated from late-night study sessions. To the world, he was just a waiter, polite, invisible, a shadow serving the elite. But beneath his calm exterior burned a mind sharp as a blade, honed by years of proving himself against odds stacked higher than the skyscrapers outside. Victor Grayson, on the other hand, was a man who owned rooms before he entered them, a real estate tycoon with a net worth in the billions. He'd built his empire on ruthless deals and a reputation for crushing anyone who dared challenge him. His sapphire ring, a so-called family heirloom, was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of his untouchable status, a badge of his lineage. To Grayson, people like Marcus were props, disposable cogs in his world of power and privilege. But tonight, Marcus's words had pierced his armor, a needle of doubt slipping through the cracks of his carefully curated life. The power imbalance was stark. Grayson, with his wealth as a shield and his arrogance as a weapon, sat at the pinnacle of society, while Marcus, in his starched uniform, was a nobody in Grayson's eyes. Yet the air between them crackled, charged with the weight of a secret that threatened to unravel everything Grayson had built. Why had Marcus's quiet comment about the ring hit Grayson like a physical blow? The restaurant's ambient hum faded as Grayson leaned back in his chair, his eyes locked on Marcus with a mix of scorn and unease. "You've got some nerve, kid," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Your mother, huh? What'd she do? Clean houses? Or maybe she's a psychic who saw my ring in a crystal ball." His guests laughed again, but the sound was forced now, their eyes darting between Grayson and Marcus, sensing the undercurrent of something darker. Marcus didn't take the bait. He straightened, his posture calm but unyielding, his voice steady as steel. She's a retired teacher. But that ring, it's unmistakable. Sapphire, platinum band, engraved with crest. I'd know it anywhere. He paused, letting the words settle like dust after an explosion. She wore it every day until it was stolen. The word stolen landed like a thunderclap, reverberating through the table. Grayson's hand twitched, the ring glinting as he curled his fingers into a fist, his knuckles whitening. Stolen? He scoffed, but his voice was tighter now, less certain. You're delusional. This is a Grayson family heirloom, passed down for generations. You think I wear some pawn shop trinket. Marcus tilted his head, his eyes sharp, cutting through Grayson's bravado. I didn't say it was a trinket. I said it was stolen from my mother's apartment 10 years ago. The guests shifted in their seats, discomfort rippling through them. One of them, a balding man with a Rolex that gleamed like his nervous sweat, cleared his throat. Victor, maybe we should... Shut up, Harold. Grayson snapped, his eyes never leaving Marcus. You're accusing me of what exactly? Stealing your mommy's jewelry? You know who I am, kid. I could buy this restaurant and fire you before you pour another glass. Marcus didn't blink. His voice was low, measured, but carried the weight of a gavel. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Grayson, and I know that ring isn't yours. The room seemed to shrink, the tension suffocating, as waiters nearby slowed their steps, their trays forgotten, drawn to the drama unfolding at table 12. Grayson's face reddened, his confidence cracking like glass under pressure. You're out of line, he growled, his voice rising. Get me your manager. Now. What was Marcus about to reveal that could shake the foundations of a billionaire's world? The manager, Paul, a wiry man with a nervous tick in his jaw, hurried over, his face pale as he caught the heat radiating from table 12. Is there a problem, Mr. Grayson? He asked, his eyes flicking to Marcus with a warning glance that screamed, don't make this worse. This waiter, Grayson spat, the word dripping with venom, is making wild accusations. He claims I'm wearing a stolen ring. Fire him. Now. Paul stammered, caught in the crossfire between a billionaire patron and an employee he barely knew. Marcus, what's this about? He asked, his voice trembling with the weight of the moment. Marcus reached into his pocket, his movements slow and deliberate, and pulled out his phone. Before you fire me, Paul, let me show you something, he said, his tone calm but commanding. He opened a photo, a grainy image of a woman's hand, adorned with a sapphire ring identical to Grayson's. The crest, the cut, the platinum setting. It was unmistakable, a mirror image of the ring on Grayson's finger. This is my mother 10 years ago. That's her ring. Grayson's smirk faltered, his eyes flicking to the phone, his bravado slipping like sand through his fingers. That proves nothing, he said, but his voice wavered, a crack in his armor. Anyone can Photoshop a picture. Marcus swiped to another image, a police report, dated 2015. It's text stark and official. This is a theft report, filed after our apartment was broken into. The ring was listed, sapphire, platinum, Grayson family crest. The police never found it. Funny how it ended up on your finger. The guests gasped, their faces paling. Paul's mouth hung open, his loyalty to Grayson fraying at the edges. Grayson's hand froze over the ring, his knuckles white, his breath shallow. This is absurd, he said, but his bravado was crumbling, his voice barely above a whisper. You think you can blackmail me with some fake documents? Marcus's voice was calm, lethal, cutting through the tension like a blade. I'm not blackmailing you, Mr. Grayson. I'm just telling the truth. And I have more. What else did Marcus have that could bring a billionaire to his knees? The restaurant was a tomb of silence now. Every eye locked on table 12, the air heavy with anticipation. Marcus swiped his phone again, revealing a scanned document, a notarized letter from a jewelry appraiser, dated 2005, its text precise and damning. This is an appraisal for my mother's ring, he said, his voice steady as a judge delivering a verdict. It describes the crest, the sapphire's carat, the engraving inside the band. To E.G. 1892. Check your ring, Mr. Grayson. It's there. Grayson's face drained of color, his hands trembling as he twisted the ring off his finger, his eyes darting to the inner band. His jaw tightened, his breath catching as he saw the engraving, undeniable and stark. This is impossible, he muttered, his voice barely audible, his empire teetering on the edge of collapse. Marcus didn't stop, his words relentless, each one a hammer striking at Grayson's legacy. My mother inherited that ring from her grandmother, who worked as a maid for your family in the 1940s. It was a gift for her loyalty, a rare gesture from your grandfather. But in 2015, your company foreclosed on our apartment building. The same night, our place was ransacked. The ring was the only thing taken. The guests were frozen, their faces a mix of shock and guilt, their earlier laughter now a distant memory. Paul stepped back, his loyalty to Grayson dissolving like mist in the morning sun. Marcus's voice grew quieter, more piercing, each word a needle in Grayson's heart. I was 17. I watched my mother cry for weeks over that ring. It was all she had left of her grandmother, her history. And now I find on your hand, Mr. Grayson. Care to explain? Grayson's mouth opened, but no words came, his tongue tied by the weight of Marcus's truth. His empire, his arrogance, his untouchable aura, it all crumbled in the face of a waiter's quiet resolve. The billionaire was paralyzed, his eyes locked on the ring, his legacy exposed as a lie woven from theft and deceit. How would Marcus turn this moment into justice? Marcus stepped closer, his voice steady, unwavering, a beacon in the storm of Grayson's unraveling. You're not just a thief, Mr. Grayson. You're a fraud. This ring ties you to a crime your company enabled. And I'm not just a waiter. I'm a third-year law student at Columbia. I've spent years researching cases like this. Foreclosures, theft, cover-ups. Your family's name comes up a lot. The restaurant was a graveyard of whispers, the air thick with the weight of truth. Grayson's guests leaned away, their faces pale, as if distancing themselves from his shame. Marcus pulled out another document from his phone, a scanned lease agreement from 2015, signed by Grayson's company, its terms cold and predatory. This proves your company targeted our building. The theft was no coincidence. I've got witnesses, 2 tenants who saw your security team in our complex that night, moving like they owned the place. Grayson's voice was a rasp, barely audible, a shadow of his earlier bravado. You can't prove anything, he said, but the words were hollow, a desperate grasp at a crumbling facade. I don't need to, Marcus replied, his eyes burning with quiet fury, a fire tempered by years of patience. I've already filed a civil suit against Grayson Properties. The ring is evidence. The police report, the appraisal, the lease, they're all with my attorney. You can keep the ring for now, Mr. Grayson. It'll look better in court when we take it back. The power had shifted, a seismic reversal that left Grayson, the untouchable billionaire, cornered like a hunted animal. His guests stood, mumbling excuses, their chairs scraping as they abandoned him, their loyalty as fleeting as their laughter. Paul, the manager, crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing as he sided with Marcus, the room transforming into a courtroom where Marcus was the prosecutor, his evidence airtight, his justice undeniable. Would Grayson's empire survive the truth? The next morning, the city woke to a firestorm. Billionaire Victor Grayson linked to decade-old theft. The headline screamed, their words splashed across every major outlet. Marcus's lawsuit, backed by a mountain of evidence, had sparked a citywide investigation. The ring was seized by authorities, its engraving, to E.G. 1892, matching the appraisal down to the last detail. Grayson's company faced scrutiny for dozens of similar foreclosures, each tied to suspicious break-ins, a pattern of predation that stretched back decades. The billionaire issued a public apology, his voice trembling in a press conference, claiming he'd bought the ring in good faith from a private dealer. But the damage was done. His reputation lay in tatters, his investors pulling out, his empire crumbling like a house of cards in a storm. Marcus didn't gloat. He sat in his mother's small Harlem apartment, the walls lined with photos of their family, their history. He handed her a copy of the lawsuit, his voice soft, steady. "We're getting it back, Ma," he said, his eyes meeting hers. She hugged him, tears streaming down her face, the weight of a decade of loss lifting like fog. The ring wasn't just jewelry. It was their history, their dignity, their fight against a world that had tried to erase them. Marcus returned to Lucille that night, his head high, his law books tucked under his arm. He wasn't just a waiter anymore. He was a warrior for justice, a man who'd taken on a titan and won. What would become of Victor Grayson, now a pariah in the city he once ruled? The rain had stopped, and New York's skyline glittered under a clear dawn, its towers gleaming like sentinels of a new day. Marcus stood outside Lucille, his breath visible in the cool morning air, staring at the city that had tried to break him. His mother's ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of every injustice swept under the rug, every voice silenced by power, every family dismissed as insignificant. This wasn't about one case, one ring, one billionaire. It was about every family like his, every truth buried beneath the weight of wealth and arrogance. Marcus had struck a blow, not for revenge, but for justice, a reminder that no one, not even a billionaire, was above the truth. He thought of his mother, her strength, her quiet resilience in the face of loss. He thought of his grandmother, a maid who'd served the Grayson family, her loyalty rewarded with a ring that carried their history. And he thought of himself, a law student with fire in his heart, a promise to keep fighting, to keep shining a light on the shadows of power. The fight wasn't over, but Marcus Tate was just getting started, his resolve as unbreakable as the city itself. If this story made you feel the weight of injustice and the power of truth, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that matter, stories that remind us no one is too big to fall when the truth rises.